Top stories in our news that the country has, in the last 24 hours, recorded 7 new coronavirus cases, while 9 patients have been discharged. A 55-year-old man of Chinsali district in Mushinga province has allegedly strangled to death his 4-year-old granddaughter after defiling her. And Green Party President Peter Sinkamba has accused the World Health Organization of trying to frustrate the efforts of African countries in finding the cure for COVID-19. The country has in the last 24 hours recorded 7 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the cumulative number of confirmed cases to 145. Speaking in Ampika, where he went to attend the burial of Ian Mutambo, who died in an accident involving a Power 2's bus while transporting COVID-19 samples from Zambezi district, Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya says that the 7 cases arise from the 468 tests conducted. Dr. Chilufya has also disclosed that 9 patients have been discharged, bringing the total number of recoveries to 101, while active cases now stand at 41. He says of the 7 new cases, 1 is a returning citizen from the USA who came for a funeral and arrived in the country on 3rd May 2020, while the rest are contacts to known cases in Lusaka. And Dr. Chitalu says screening and targeted testing is underway in Nakonde, and that as of Monday, as of Tuesday, 268 citizens were screened and tested.
We, in the last 24 hours, conducted 468 tests, out of which 7 came out positive. All of them in Lusaka. One of them was a returning citizen from the United States of America who came for a funeral and tested positive when we conducted our routine protocols on returning people. The rest are known contacts, contacts to known cases in Lusaka. The number of discharges continue to go up. So in the last 24 hours, we discharged 9 patients who seroconverted to negative and tested 2 days consecutively. These include the first 2 patients we admitted to the copper belt at Masaiti. So those 2 patients are now discharged. We continue with our targeted testing and mass screening, and we are happy to note that in Nakonde we screened and tested 268 citizens as of yesterday. This program will continue as part of the enhanced surveillance, active case finding through testing. So we will continue with that program to determine the extent of the problem in Zambia and ensure that we quarantine all the positives and treat them and completely disrupt community spread.
Meanwhile, Dr. Chitalu has, on behalf of Republican President Edgar Lungu, delivered a message of condolences to the family of Ian Mutambo, a frontline health personnel who died in an accident. He has described Mutambo as a bold, brave and dedicated young man, as distinguished by his 2 years of service. Dr. Chilufya says President Edgar Lungu was devastated by Mutambo's demise, adding that he will ensure that the bereaved family receives the necessary support. Ian Mutambo, who has since been put to rest at Mufumushi village in Mpika district, was born in 1996 and was employed by the Ministry of Health in 2018.
Today we mourn a departed hero of the fight against COVID. On behalf of the government, the President, His Excellency Dr. Edgar Lungu, we express condolences to the family on the death of young Ian Mutambo, and we are here to pay our last respects, and we appreciate the unity that we've seen in the family and the community, and may his soul rest in peace. He is a brave warrior. He's lost his life at the battlefront while saving lives. He was a dedicated young man, very bold. He was not only looking at COVID surveillance, He was also the focal point person who was looking at tuberculosis in Zambezi district. His 2 years of work distinguished him as a courageous, bold and diligent health worker. We will miss him, but his legacy will carry on as we push the war against COVID.
A 55-year-old man of Chinsali district in Muchinga province has allegedly murdered his 4-year-old granddaughter after defiling her. Zanis reports that Muchinga Province Police Commissioner John Jase says that the suspect, John Chimfwembe, is alleged to have strangled his granddaughter after defiling her and later dumped the body in Womi River. Ms. Njase says that the post-mortem examination results indicate that the deceased minor was strangled to death after being defiled. He says that the suspect has since been arrested for allegedly defiling and strangling the named juvenile on 1st May 2020 at about 11:43 hours in Chombo village. Ms. Njase states that the suspect is in police custody and will be charged accordingly. In a related development, a 32-year-old man of Twashuka compound in Luansha district has committed suicide after allegedly killing his 5-year-old stepson. Francis Sokoni is believed to have stabbed to death his 5-year-old stepson before taking his own life by hanging himself. Russia District Commissioner Patrick Maipambe, who confirmed the development to Zanis in Luansha, said the deceased repeatedly stabbed his son in the neck using a screwdriver before he wrapped the child on his back and hanged himself. Mr. Maipambe says the two bodies were discovered dead in a grass-thatched house around 07 hours, adding that the bodies are lying in Thompson Hospital awaiting post-mortem. A 21-year-old man of a smart village in Chief Kakumbi's area in Mambwe district has been killed by a lion and his body eaten halfway. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo says police in Mfuwe in Eastern Province received a report that a lion attacked and killed Anthony Chibulu, aged 21, of Smart Village, Chief Kakumbi, on 5th May 2020 around 12 hours. Ms. Katongo says that the remains of the deceased are in Kamoto Hospital mortuary and that the matter has since been brought to the attention of the wildlife authorities. Meanwhile, police in Namwala district of Southern Province are looking for Hachikoyu Monga, aged 35, of Hanombe village, Chief Nalubamba, in connection with the murder of his 60-year-old uncle, identified as patient Monga, which occurred on 4th May 2020 around 19 hours. Ms. Katongo explains that the whole ordeal began after the deceased was suspected to have been behind the burning of the suspect's house. She says the victim sustained a fractured left leg, a deep cut on the right leg and on the forehead, and that it is believed that a stick was used in the act, which has since been recovered.
The victim sustained a fractured left leg, a deep cut on the right leg, and a deep cut on the forehead, and it is alleged that a stick was used in the act. The whole ordeal is reported to have begun after the deceased was suspected to have been behind the burning of the suspect's house. The suspect is currently on the run, and police have launched investigations. The stick that is alleged to have been used in the act has been recovered, and we are appealing to members of the public who could have information on the whereabouts of the suspects to immediately report to any nearest police. The victim sustained a fracture.
The opposition Green Party President Peter Sinkamba is disappointed that the World Health Organization (WHO) is trying to frustrate the efforts African countries are making to find a cure for COVID-19. The World Health Organization (WHO) has said there is no proof of a cure for COVID-19 after Madagascar's president launched a herbal coronavirus cure. But Mr. Sinkamba says it is wrong for the WHO to always think that what is developed by Western countries is what is the best for everyone. He has told Qtv News that African countries can also develop their own cure for various diseases based on indigenous knowledge. Mr. Sinkamba has since encouraged the government to import the Malagasy herbal tea so that it can be used to cure COVID-19 patients in Zambia.
As the Green Party, would like to commend the President of Madagascar for having promoted the discovery of COVID-19 organics, a drug which they are using to treat patients of COVID-19 pandemic. And I think this is very good. But we are disappointed with the World Health Organization for trying to frustrate the efforts of African countries to find a cure, especially on COVID-19. We are aware that there is what we call alternative anti-complementary medicines, which usually we as Africans have developed over the years. And it's important that those medicines are supported, or they are part and parcel of the international order. It's not right for WHO to always think that what is developed by the whites or other Europeans or Americans is what's best for all of us. I think what we can develop as well, based on our indigenous knowledge, is very important for us to promote. So we recommend what they've done in Madagascar, and would like to urge the government of the Republic of Zambia to also import some of those drugs so that we can use them to treat our patients here in Zambia. I mean, we need to support one another. It's very, very important. And even for us as a Green Party, the initiative that we made, that we need to develop a cure for COVID-19 using cannabis, must also be taken seriously by the leadership of this country.
The opposition MMT leader, Dr. Nevas Mumba, says government is on a governance test because Zambians are continuously monitoring how materials and monetary contributions are donated toward the fight against the coronavirus pandemic are being distributed and utilized. Dr. Mumba has since advised Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya and his finance counterpart, Dr. Walyangandu, to ensure there is transparent and prudent utilization of the monetary and materials contributions. In an interview with Qtv News, Dr. Mumba says there is need for the two ministers to ensure that COVID-19 does not overwhelm the country by ensuring that the contributions are prudently utilized for intended purposes. He has further urged the Zambia Police Service to come in an event that there are reports of misappropriation of the donated items.
I think government and the Ministry of Health in particular are on their own test. Because Zambians are taking note of the donations that are going there, and they should not mistake it that Zambians are not seeing whether those donations are going for the purpose for which they were donated. And therefore, I just pray that our colleagues in the Ministry of Health are going to be morally strong to ensure that they do not tempt themselves to abuse the resources, either the cash or the materials that have been, donated. We are hearing stories of, some of these materials ending on the streets being sold by some people. We hope that is not true, but I think that, the police should get involved once they hear some rumors like this. We would not like to see something going to such a serious program ending up in the pockets of a few. I think it's one of the most immoral things anybody can do. Let's all focus our attention on making sure that this virus does not overwhelm us as a country. I think government and the Ministry of Health in particular are on their own test.
Still in our local news, suspected Patriotic Front cadres have attacked UPND members in Lusaka's Mandevo constituency. The UPND members were attacked as they were about to hand over some hand-washing buckets and basins and assorted hygienic products donated to the party structure in Mandevo by former Zambia Correctional Service Commissioner General Percy Chato for onwards distribution to different wards in the constituency. But as the UPND entourage was passing through Katambalala Market, suspected PF cadres emerged, started stoning the canter carrying the basins and grabbed a few basins from the canter. And UPND Mandevu constituency chairman Hendrix Njovu, who was leading the entourage, described the attack as barbaric and unacceptable. More in this report.
What started as a peaceful event ended up to be violent and ugly. Former Zambia Correctional Services Commissioner General Percy Chato donated about 10 of these buckets and basins and assorted hygienics products to UPND Mandevu constituency, which would later be distributed in wards across the constituency. The official announcement of the donation peacefully took place at Mrs. Grace Chibuya's residence, who is UPND Lusaka Province Deputy Chairperson.
The donation, Mr. Chairman here, the Secretary, inachitiwa na mwana wa muno mumunzi. Inachitiwa na mwana wa muno mumunzi by the name of Percy Chato. Who is your name by Mr. Njovu there? Percy Chato anaganizila kuti if kuli coronavirus, my sisters is there, my aunties is there, they will be affected also. But if I can give only to my family, it won't carry any weight. So this is also why Percy Chato achita decide kubwela hivi vintu kuvileta pano panga chifuko hasi tenze kumuona alelewa maparents bakufa tibashika. So nichamena aletera ikatundu pano kuti iende in all 7 wards in Mandevu, Mr. Chairman.
The donated items were then expected to be distributed to wards across the constituency, of which the beginning was successful.
Uno ndiye mundu watu tulibe mundu wina. Yes. Tabwela kuchita demonstrate ichi chifuko kuliwina all wishers wamene obadwa muno mukabanana. Percy Chato paja Percy Chato tefe mwalishi bapo. So akamba kuti ine pali ineneka nipa nisakuchita hivi. Nanga kwa mene ninabadwa. Kwa mene nakulila kwa banana. So ndiye Percy Chato zamene aleta. And niwa mene atuuza hivi vintu binangu biende pamake.
The distribution, however, was cut short and ended unsuccessful as some suspected PF cadres attacked and stormed the counter carrying the items at Katambalala Market in Mandevu in an attack believed to have been orchestrated by a non-PF supporter only identified as Dimba, who was a few seconds later seen driving around the area in this white vehicle. The bucket and basins that were neatly packed ended up looking like this, while some were gotten off the counter by the attackers. UPND Mandevu constituency chairman Hendrix Njovu, who was leading the entourage, has described the attack as barbaric and unacceptable.
We are merely distributing what has been donated by our well-wishers against the COVID-19 pandemic. But all of a sudden, we were attacked for no apparent reason. Our vehicle was not branded. Our youths that were there, they were not in any party regalia, we were just in civil. It is so shocking that we can be going through such kind of things in this time and era. It's so pathetic. Honestly, I'm actually traumatized. I didn't expect this to be happening in our country today. I condemn in the strongest terms this barbaric act by the PF thugs. I hope they'll listen, their officials will take note and discipline their people. Otherwise, we do not want to react as a party.
But when contacted for a comment, Patriotic Front District Chairman Forbes Mufaya, who condemned the violent act, has however denied the involvement of the PF youths or members of the party in the attack.
So the issue of stoning is not in that report that I've received. And those people that are involved are not even our members. Because I wanted him to find out for me exactly if any of our members are involved in that, they said no. So unless those that are claiming as evidence, then we may look at that. But as far as we're concerned, none of our officials are involved in that.
Qtv News reporting in Lusaka.
Meanwhile, Patriotic Front Secretary General Davis Mwila has with immediate effect revoked the appointment of PF Lusaka Province Chair Lady Charity Katongo Banda. In a letter dated 6th May 2020 addressed to Mrs. Banda and copied to the party and Republican President Edgar Lungu, among others, Mr. Mwila has cited Mrs. Banda's continued misconduct contrary to her expected behavior in her jurisdiction of duty as the reason for the revocation of her appointment. Mr. Mwila has since asked Mrs. Banda to surrender all the party materials in her position to the Lusaka Province Chairman or his office without fail. The ruling PF is preparing for the General Conference to elect party leaders, which is set for 10th to 12th July 2020. The Consortium of Local Contractors and Allied Suppliers, COCAS, has expressed concern over the 90 days notice Mopani Copper Mines has given the government of its intention to send workers home and place its mines on care and maintenance. COCAS General Secretary Bruce Mwamba says such a move will bring the nation back to the same situation it is fighting against now and will result in some workers losing their jobs. Mr. Mwamba is however hopeful that a lasting solution will be found to secure the jobs of the miners. He has however expressed happiness over the short-term outcome of the negotiations between the government and Mopani Copper Mines, which has resulted in all the 11,000 employees who were sent home being recalled as the mine resumes operations after being put on care and maintenance. Mr. Mwamba is hopeful that negotiations will continue between government and the mining firm. Gender Minister Elizabeth Piri has noted that the partial lockdown of the country's economy has contributed to the increase in the number of gender-based violence GBV cases. Mrs. Piri is concerned that instead of couples and families bonding relationships during this period, in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, women are mentally and physically hurt by their husbands. The minister has told QTV News in an interview that as husbands are spending more time at home with their wives because bars and sporting events are closed, they are venting this boredom, frustration by beating their wives. She says that male spouses are increasingly inflicting emotional and physical harm on women, a trend she has described as a thorn in the flesh of the women in the quest to transform Zambia into a GBV-free zone. Mrs. Piri, who is also a Kanyama Member of Parliament, is equally concerned that young women continue to die as a consequence of gender-based violence, citing the recent killings of girls by their boyfriends. The gender minister says it is worrying to see young girls prematurely going to the grave because of being battered by uncompromising lovers who take advantage of their economic vulnerability. She has since advised law enforcement officers to ensure that all reported gender-based violence cases are expeditiously prosecuted in national interest.
Because the perpetrators have gotten away with it because they know I'm the breadwinner and this victim is dependent on me, and once I do this, I'll get away with it because this person totally depends on me. This is the very reason as a ministry we are saying, let the women be doing something. Because the major source of gender-based violence, one of the contributing factors, is poverty. If somebody is independent, there will be respect and dignity in the house. But if there's no money, the breadwinner is the perpetrator of GBV. It will be very difficult, especially during this time of this lockdown. The victim and the perpetrator are forced to be together for longer periods. And this is why you are seeing, a lot of deaths are happening now. We have had deaths from gender-based violence, but it is at the increase because of the lockdown, and people are just together all the time. They can't go to the bar, they can't go out, so this time what they do is buy and drink from home. And when they are drunk, they will beat their spouses. It is very unfortunate. My warning to the perpetrators of gender-based violence is the long arm of the law will surely visit them. And once they are caught in the web of the long arm of the law, they will definitely pay a price to the fullest.
Transport and Communications Minister Mutoto Kafwaya has instructed Zambia Railways Limited management to stop all new constructions along the railway line. Speaking after conducting an inspection of the railway line to check on the encroachment and vandalism of the railway infrastructure, Mr. Kafwaya says it is high time the railway company started engaging those who have encroached on its land. He says it will be difficult for the Zambia Railways Limited to put up other structures if all their land is encroached. Mr. Kafwaya states that the land is for future use and therefore he will not allow any encroachers. More in the following report.
To them, everything is fine as long as they are making money to feed for their families. But the Zambia Railways Limited, this is wrong and illegal. Zambia Railways land has of late suffered encroachment where illegal structures have been built on or next to the railway line. This has raised safety concerns as the company moves hazardous commodities such as acids, fuel and chemicals, which can result in a catastrophe in case of a derailment or accident. Mutotwe Kafwaya, the Minister of Transport and Communication, who was checking the extent of the encroachment of the Zambia Railways Limited rail line from Lusaka Central area to Lusaka's Ngwerere and Foxdale area, is not happy with what he has found here.
They come, they can't get their plane, and therefore they can't get title. So the whole process continues.
Sina name bora. Okay, sina uziba. Wewe mtu anaye sema wewe ameno ni mtu sema natuza uti nensizi munaresa. Choke kuchoka simngavute. Manyinga sio mwatie bwana mwatie daima kangono kuchoka ponia. Sisi tuzachoka. Mzeta bwana tupe tulibana bantu njengo tuyangana muziko mungu. Ndibe pembe ngo tuyangana. Ndimwe. Tuli kupempa. Maana Mungu ametungazungire bana. Babalimire kulibe bwana ngokwakote mu mforo kuti ndimo mzabu ya kuti kumpera manyazi kuti manje mbakona panje mu mforo so ne kupemba kwanga dine patron bo please nipempa kulima tuzo kuti zinthu zalubana kuti zinthu zalubana kuti chingale pansi kuti chikale fuchi chingale bwino munga azibone zanyo kalira kwamezi onongeka ni pambiri koma kupempa kwanga kuti mutitandize nazo kuti enjanji ni yanu
kulisa sibanali kukamba bwino kuti apa ya malo ni abalero isetenzo choka kwa kalingalinga kubwera osakira so sibanali kukamba kuti aya malo yamene mugula ni abalero isetinali kugula chabe mudala pofuna kuti nanga ponkhala ni pati pamene zaika bana ni pati so ise nikuchosa ndrama bakakuuza kuti chosa kandrama wachosa kandrama waita bwanji wabapasa then tabwata nyitamanga kanyumba.
Mr. Kafwaya has issued these instructions.
I think that Mr. Msonda here, myself and everybody who works in this sector, or subsector of rail, we need to contribute something so that we leave value as opposed to leaving liabilities for people who are coming after us. So I think from what I see, I would like to direct Zambia Railways to make sure that they stop anybody who is building now. Those buildings should not continue.
But what happens to those that have already constructed their buildings?
And we now need to start engaging those who have built on our land to make sure that we transition them out of this land. Government didn't sell the land. Zambia Railways didn't sell the land. So I don't know why it has to be Zambia Railways or government to compensate. Okay? Somebody sold land which isn't theirs. They should go to jail. Why aren't you thinking of them going to jail as opposed to actually getting compensation? Okay? People, you see, we need to do the right thing. All of us need to do the right thing. I can't just wake up and begin to sell land for Zambia Railways. Okay? We must look for those people who sold the land. I think it's more important than thinking about compensating people who are actually illegally occupying land which isn't theirs.
Christopher Mlenga, the Zambia Railway Limited Chief Executive Officer, has assured that the firm will implement the directive.
Development, because some of the development are setting precedent for other people to come and do the same thing. So from our side, we just to be more vigilant, do more patrols, and stop new development. The existing development, people spend money, But before you spend money, as the minister says, you must be sure you are building a house not for one day, it's for 10, 15 years, 20, 50 years. So you need to be secure that the investment, first of all, is standing on the legal position. Otherwise, they risk losing all what they've invested again.
Favorite Kalando reporting.
The Consumer Unit and Trust Society Cards International is urging the government to consider adjusting income tax thresholds as well as the value-added tax VAT rate for other essential goods in addition to medical supplies in order to support low-income households during the COVID-19 pandemic. CATS researcher Aquila Ngonga says on account of the pandemic, consumers are losing their jobs and experiencing cuts in their household income. And Mr. Ngonga adds that with the recent announced increase in the inflation ratio of 15.7% from 14%, the most hard hit by this inflation will be low-income consumers, given that a significant amount of their budgets are food. He says that this escalated cost of living coupled with job losses in various sectors requires the Ministry of Finance to target some of the support that it is receiving from cooperating to these groups. Mr. Ngonga states that CATS is therefore urging the Ministry of Finance to explore ways to cushion not only businesses that are providing income to households but also to consumers that are increasingly feeling the punch of the increased cost of living. He has also noted that while the waiving of tax penalties and interest on outstanding tax liabilities by the government is progressive, the guidelines released by ZRA regarding the criteria of who qualifies for the waiver are however restrictive and do not prioritize small, medium enterprises and businesses that contribute significantly to employment. And finally, in our news, the National Health Insurance Management Authority, NIMA, has so far registered 560,000 contributing members since it became operational on October 1st, 2019. Authority Director General James Kapesa says that the number of registered contributing members and beneficiaries shows an increase of over 20% coverage compared to 4% when the scheme just commenced. Mr. Kapesa has further disclosed that the numbers of those registered translates to about 3.5 to 4 million beneficiaries, as the contributors are advised to also include their family members. He has appealed to those who are not yet on the scheme to ensure they get on the scheme and begin making their contributions, as it is for their own benefit, which is better health access. The National Health Insurance Scheme commenced the implementation of the scheme on 1st October 2019, following the enactment of the National Health Insurance Act No. 2 of 2018 and subsequent publication of Statutory Instrument No. 63 of 2019.
560,000 contributing members have already started making contributions into the scheme and have been registered. For every one contributing member, you are able to bring an additional 6 members of your family, your registered spouse, and your children and or dependents within the 6 additional members of the family as beneficiaries. What that does is that it means that for that 560,000 of principal contributors who are on our registers, they can bring on board between 3.5 to 4 million dependents and beneficiaries. That figure is about 20%, above 20% of cover for the entire country. This is one of the reasons the scheme was introduced, to provide peace of mind for our people, to make sure that when they're unwell, they don't have to go and produce cash, because most of them, like the minister indicated, would go and borrow money because the wife has to pay for surgery, has to pay 3,000 kwacha for surgery. Now, if you contribute 50 kwacha per month, that is enough for your wife to be attended to without paying. So we want to send a message to our people that they continue to register and comply. We also want to speak to NIMA's support for COVID-19, that we have introduced a claims advance payment. The claims advance payment uses the current grants module and model to provide upfront monies to the hospitals so that we can strengthen their systems even before our members start going to the hospitals.
That's all we had for you in our news. Thank you for watching. It's bye-bye for now.